The next person I'd like to introduce is one who is one of our biggest champions of the federal government, someone who's fighting Wall Street on every front. She's plain-spoken, she's tough, and she's making Wall Street aware of all of our needs. Her name is Senator Elizabeth Warren, and she is here to join us today. Senator Warren.
Thank you very much. I am delighted to be here. Thank you, John, for the introduction. Boy, we got our timing down just right. I want to start this by thanking all of you for the work you are doing in your communities. I know this is tough work. I know that the deck is often stacked against you, but you are making a real difference in people's lives. So thank you for all you're doing. I am very glad to have the chance to be here today, to be able to talk with you about one way that we can make Washington work better for families in your neighborhoods. But before we start with today, I want to actually go back about a decade to the beginnings of the financial crisis. The collapse in the housing market destroyed literally trillions of dollars of family wealth across this country. And we know who got hit the hardest. It was lower income families who had a little less money to use for a down payment, and blacks and Latinos who in many cases were illegally steered into more expensive loans with worse terms so that lenders could make a little extra money. The 2008 crisis hit these families like a punch in the gut. And for many of them, their home was everything. It was not just a place to live, it was their savings account, it was their retirement plan, it was the foundation that they hoped to leave to their kids and grandkids so they could have a more secure future. Now, in many parts of the country, the housing market has recovered. But for hardest hit communities, things are still pretty grim, and you all know this firsthand. People are still underwater on their homes, struggling to make monthly payments, unable to sell their houses because prices are so low, which is what brings us to today. Two federal agencies oversee the housing market: the Department of Housing and Urban Development, which is in charge of FHA, and the Federal Housing Finance Agency, which is in charge of Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Together, HUD and FHFA are responsible for the vast majority of home mortgages all across this country. And that includes the hundreds of thousands of mortgages that are non-performing, the mortgages where people have fallen behind on their monthly payments. Now, it is no surprise that these non-performing mortgages are clustered in certain communities, the ones that were hit hardest by the financial crisis and the ones that haven't rebounded. HUD and FHFA want to get those loans off their books, and that presents an opportunity and a risk. So, those loans could be sold to people who want to help families and strengthen communities so that the hardest hit families and the hardest hit communities could begin to recover. Or those loans could be sold to a lot of the same Wall Street speculators who ripped off these families in the first place. So far, HUD and FHFA have been lining up with the Wall Street speculators. In the past year, they've sold over 100,000 loans, and almost every single one of these loans has gone to Wall Street banks, to private equity funds, or to hedge funds, about 95% of the loans at latest count. This should surprise absolutely nobody. Wall Street is interested in profits, not in neighborhood stabilization. Wall Street is interested in profits, not in community revitalization. Wall Street is interested in profits, not in working out a way for people to stay in their homes. HUD has released data on about 79,000 delinquent mortgages that it has sold through its ordinary auctions, through its normal auctions. These loans have gone almost exclusively to hedge funds and big banks. And to date, homeowners have been able to avoid foreclosure in only about 20% of those cases. That means 4 out of 5 are just gone. This whole process shows how badly the playing field is tilted toward the big banks and the hedge funds. So these Wall Street investors made money by crashing the economy, got bailed out, and now they're back to feed at the trough again, scooping up these loans at rock bottom prices so that they profit off them a second time. And it is up to us to stop that. That's what this is about today. Enough. All right, so here's what really gets my goat about this. For 6 years now, 6 years, we have been pushing FHFA to institute a principal reduction program that would help families keep their homes. I have asked FHFA Director Mel Watt about this myself at multiple hearings and in multiple letters. And each time he says FHFA needs to study the issue so that it can protect taxpayers. And every day that goes by, more and more families lose their homes and end up out on the street. Meanwhile, FHFA is letting Fannie and Freddie sell off huge packages of these loans at a 30% discount, a 40% discount to hedge funds and to banks. So let me get this straight. FHFA is willing to take a big hit on the loans, but only if the benefits go to Wall Street and not to homeowners? Evidently, there is no need for delay, no need for further study if the government takes a loss and Wall Street makes a profit. But it is absolutely necessary to delay if homeowners might have a chance to cut their mortgages and stay in their homes. This is wrong, and it is time to fight back. You bet. So, it is time, it is long past time, for some basic changes in how these sales occur. And I'm going to talk about 4 things, okay, that we want to ask for here. First, let the nonprofits have a fair chance to buy these loans. Yes. We know the numbers on this. Nonprofits produce better outcomes for homeowners and for communities. But the way that the agencies package the loans and auction off the loans makes it nearly impossible for nonprofits to compete. So what we want is just to give the nonprofits a fair chance to participate in the loans. Okay, that's number one. Second, notify homeowners before their loan is sold so they have a chance to protest the sale. You shouldn't find out about it after the fact. This is particularly important for borrowers with FHA loans because the sale will destroy many of their legal rights regarding foreclosures and modifications. The government should not abolish homeowners' rights without at least having the decency to let people know about it in advance. So that's the second one. Got to do this. Third one, put conditions on the sales of these loans that really benefit homeowners. No sales of loans unless it's going to benefit the homeowners. So here's what I want you to look at. The loans that HUD sold through the neighborhood restabilization outcome pools, purchasers of these pools, right now, this is a program that HUD tried. Purchasers of these pools must show that at least half the homeowners avoid foreclosure and reach some sort of positive outcome. And guess what? In this program, more than half the people in those pools avoided foreclosure, compared with only about 20% in the regular pools. And here's the kicker. It didn't cost the agencies much money at all to attach these tougher requirements. Those tougher requirements to help homeowners should be the rule in every case, in every sale. And fourth, accountability. The agencies need to collect specific data from purchasers on what happened to homeowners after investors bought the loans, and those data should be publicly disclosed so that you can see them and I can see them. You bet. When the next auction comes along, the agency should give preference to purchasers who have shown that they can produce good results for homeowners. Wall Street speculators should not be at the front of the line if they have already shown that they are far more likely to put families into foreclosure. Four changes, and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of families will have a fighting chance to hang on to their homes. 4 changes. And the hardest hit communities will have a fighting chance to recover. And now, here comes the really good news. None of these 4 changes requires any action from Congress. That's right. None requires lengthy rulemaking. If they wanted to make changes, HUD and FHFA could do this afternoon. All right. We can get this. But here's the bad news. If they make no changes, these sales will continue. Hundreds of thousands of sales will be made to Wall Street investors who will once again squeeze profits out of families and communities that can least afford it. So, we need to get something straight. These federal agencies don't work for Wall Street. They work for the American people. That's what we need to get straight. They have an obligation to stop dragging their feet and do what they can to help communities recover from the worst housing crisis in generations. Now, thanks to you, we are making progress. You've already pushed HUD to make some very strong improvements, but 4 additional changes could make a huge difference. HUD and FHFA could make these changes right now if they just had the courage to stand up for families instead of bowing to Wall Street. I'm proud to have the chance to be here with you today. We know what we need to do. We know what we can do. I want to stand with you in this fight because it will take all of us fighting together to make Washington once again work for our families. Thank you all.